let's talk about my honest thoughts about Overwatch Classic. Now, as you guys have known, I've been playing this game all the way back since the private beta. I've reached the highest highs, and then I transitioned over to a coaching thing, and now I've just kind of stuck around as a content creator doing a bit of everything. Most of you kind of know me as the new quote-unquote Genji guy. Some of you know me as the coach that helped them climb. Some of you know me as somebody who just reports on the news, etc., etc. But the point is I have a deep love for Overwatch, and I've always wanted to see it go back to its peak, which can be discussed and argued on what that peak is. I think 6v6 in the October 2020 patch is the baseline for what makes the game really fun. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about my thoughts on Overwatch Classic. Now, I wanted to be really clear that Overwatch Classic is basically more of a blast into the past to see how Overwatch has been built up over time. There's a bit of misinformation going around that I want to quickly discuss. Overwatch Classic is not just the patch 1, like the first patch that came out during Overwatch release. It's not just that patch. We're going to go through different periods in the game's history. In the dev blog, AbbyAZK explained that we're going to see when we enter the game later today, we will be live streaming it. So I hope to see you guys there. When we enter the game later today, we will be entering the first ever Overwatch patch, patch 1. I believe, and that patch is the release 2016 patch, even going before Ana's release. So we will be having no limits, game will be all over the place, wacky, like things weren't balanced out and everything. It's definitely going to be definitely very interesting to see and try out. And from what they've said, it's going to be an arcade, although I would have liked it if it was actually in quick play, but we will see how it's done later today. Now, the idea behind this is later on, they didn't give us a timeline, but I assume it's going to be done by the different weeks, is as the weeks progress, we will get the role lock, we will get the Moth meta, we will get the triple tank, triple support, like they said, like we will go through different balance patches in Overwatch's life in order to revisit it and relive it. Now, what does this mean? Like, what is the point of Overwatch Classic? I wanted to be abundantly clear on what my stance on Overwatch Classic is. I don't think anybody expects Overwatch Classic to be the quote-unquote perfect balance of 6v6. This 6v6 is just meant to be a fun event, revisit, have fun with it, see how the game was back then decide on what you thought about it. Is it rose-tinted glasses or not, etc., etc., and then come back and go from there. So I definitely think nobody, including me, expects this to be the balanced version of 6v6. Those are coming in the future in the next season's testing. We know that in the next season's testing, they want to try 3 max and 1 min. And then after that, we'll be going into default 6v6 2-2-2 with the new hero reworks and everything. So one of my biggest fears in my previous video, as you guys remember, I talked about that I really pray to God that we get to play 6v6 in its original form rather than going with min 1 and max 3. And lo and behold, they're actually doing that. We're getting versions of that from the classic Overwatch, patch in the mid-season that's coming now, and we will go to the 2-2-2 later on as the time progresses. In my opinion, like I said, guys, I don't hate Overwatch. It's balanced team or it's devs. I have my own ideal version of Overwatch, right? I have my own idea of what a balanced and healthy Overwatch looks like. I might actually just do a video on that if there's enough interest. And the way I basically see it is bringing, this is just a fun event for us to mess around and have fun and enjoy the game. Look, I've really been enjoying the Junkenstein's lab, and that's going to be going away. And I really was thinking, what can I play that I want to play Overwatch, but there's nothing really there to help me kind of keep it around. And this coming in as a fun thing to try, 3 Winstons and 3 Lucios, or 6 Bastions defending Hanamura or something. This definitely, this is the type of, wackiness that we sometimes need. At the end of the day, I feel like we get so lost in Overwatch's balance that we forget that at its core, a game should be fun. At its core, a game should be doing silly things. And that's what I like about this upcoming Overwatch Classic, is that we will be visiting different periods and points in time, and now we can finally discuss that. Was it rose-tinted glasses? Was the Moth meta the best version of 6v6? Was Goats the best version of 6v6? Was this or that? We will hopefully be getting DPS Doomfist, so I can't wait to revisit that whenever it comes out. Maybe 2 weeks from now we will get DPS Doomfist going online, so Orisa with the pull and everything. So I'm really looking forward to all of that. I'm very hyped and excited about it. Now, what does this mean for the future of Overwatch? Now, Aaron Keller was asked in the dev blog, again, we reviewed all of this in the live stream. He was asked that, is this going to finalize the 6v6, for the future of Overwatch. And he said, no, this is like, we will be looking at the feedback and player perception and, comments and everything, but this isn't where they draw the line. Like with the real 6v6 test coming out in the next season, that is going to be the more hardcore, okay, if we take 6v6 seriously, this is what it looks like. Now, I want to give them a lot of props, because they're finally doing things that we as a community have asked for. First of all, I think, like I said, of course, Overwatch Classic as an experience is meant to be snapshots in history, and most of it will be a little bit all over the place for us to experience the different metas, and most importantly for the Overwatch 2 community, the new players, to check out what Overwatch was like back then. I think something that's really exciting and broken is going to be Mercy's 5-man res, Genji's 8-second Dragon Blade. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to be in there that, definitely going to be silly and broken. Like, there's no denying it, right? But at the same time, that's, what kind of made us fall in love with the game in the first place. Now, there is some, community perception going around that, well, the player base has actually gotten better at the game, and back then, nobody knew how to play, so that's why the game was fun. I don't necessarily think that's going to strip the fun away from the game. I think because we've all gotten kind of better at the game, because we all somewhat at least take it semi-seriously and understand the game better, I think it'll be a better way for us to test different states of the game, because you never know, maybe some concepts that we know now, we can apply to the previous metas and try to create counter comps. Like, this is something that I feel like is not being talked about enough, is we're just looking at it from the perspective that, oh, it won't be fun because everybody is better at the game now, which is factually true. People are much better at the game now than they were back then. But I think that can also be a good thing. I think that's actually going to lead into some more fun experiments. Who knows? Maybe the first week of everybody experimenting with support Symmetra, we'll maybe realize that support Symmetra was actually very good if you mix it into these different comps. We might realize that this version of that character was actually, you see where I'm going with this, right? I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that we have a better and improved community over time to revisit this with. I think we might actually be able to take away better data from it. So my hopes for the upcoming 6v6 tests, my hope for this first event that is titled Overwatch Classic is, I just want to have fun. And the thing is that I'm going into it with the expectation that I know for a fact things are going to be broken. For example, Junkrat is going to take damage from his, items. D.Va will be able to die to her own bomb. Pharah is going to take a lot more damage from her rockets as well. I think that's something that a lot of people have not mentioned yet. There's some quality of life changes that they have put in when we were reading the patch notes yesterday and skimming through it. They did put in some quality of life to at least, help some characters and ultimates feel better, but most of it they wanted to be an authentic experience. So like I said, I really do want to give Blizzard some props, because I've been talking about the game in a negative light, and to anybody that actually follows me on Twitter at AbbyAZK, by the way, and to anybody that's been in the live streams, I think people, I've made it very clear that I love this game. I just very much disagree with its current direction. Me personally, I don't care if the game goes 6v6 or 5v5, although I do slightly lean towards the 6v6 nowadays a lot more than 5v5 because of the tank issues and balancing issues that have come with it. I'm not a fan of Giga tanks at all. However, I will say that my ideal version of Overwatch is there's healthy counterplay in ultimates versus other ultimates, like shutting down Dragon Blade with Zenyatta Transcendence rather than dropping a Suzu or Immortality Field, etc., etc. I think one of the biggest takeaways when we revisit this version of the game, and hypothetically, let's assume it is as enjoyable as we remember, I feel like this is a great way for the new team to really study what people truly enjoy about Overwatch. I feel like we have been so lost in the current day age of balance that we've kind of really forgotten what made Overwatch as enjoyable as it is. And sometimes trying to always balance the game isn't necessarily going to lead into a fun game, and the current version of 5v5 has proven that. Remember guys, 5v5 wasn't always unfun. Season 1 and early Season 2 of 5v5 was actually fun. It's just that support players had not adjusted to one tank. This is because support players tend to be in the backline a lot, and the game opened up a lot more. However, an argument was being made in later on in Season 2 that some of the support changes were unnecessary, because as support players were adjusting to the game, they were getting better at dealing with the problems. Now, this is why that when we go to this version of the game, it's going to be very interesting to see how people feel in general. I definitely think there's gonna be some moments of, okay, this version of this character, like we cannot have rose tinted glasses, this was broken. I think Mercy's mass res is definitely gonna be a hilarious moment. I think all of us can fundamentally agree that was broken, right? And it wasn't just broken from a, oh, it's broken because she can negate place. It was also broken from the POV that Mercy really wasn't that good. She wasn't as fluid and what she is now, although arguably she's in a worse state now than she was a few seasons back. But that's a different topic for a different day. Regardless, my thoughts on Overwatch Classic, if I wanted to summarize it, is I'm very open to it. I know it's not going to be balanced. It's going to be fun going through different metas in the game's life cycle. I think this is it keeps the game interesting and healthy, keeps you logging in and wanting to try out new things. It will help you appreciate new balance and maybe old balance. And the best part is it gives the development team data on what people like from back then, what they dislike about now, what they like about now, and what they dislike about back then, and hopefully give us better patches in the near future. That is my hope. I hope that is the end goal. Learn what people like about each different patch, try to implement it into the current game, because I personally believe you can 100% make 5v5 or 6v6 work, but you have to have an understanding of where or what do people enjoy about your game. Now, with that being said, everybody, I will be live streaming later today when the 6v6 test, or not test, but Overwatch Classic goes live. So if you'd like to join me as we delve into the most chaotic edition of Overwatch, I will see you then.